Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart I'm having a look at the front axle. See you in a minute. Now, I picked up all the welded up bits for this the other week and it's time to start and put it together, but first of all there's a bit of an issue with it that I need to address that wasn't covered when I planned it. So we'll go and have a look and see what the problems are with it and if we can resolve them. Now, before I get too far into tidying up these axle ends that I've done in aluminium, I need to sort out a problem that I've got, which I've made for myself and have not foreseen, if you like. Again, proving A, that I know nothing, and B, that you need to spend an awful lot of time with these things, just living with them to find out where it's going to fit, and you really need the real thing rather than a bit of paper to do it with. I've got these supports which were intended to work as radius rods going back towards the chassis at about 45 degrees with heim joints on them that stop the axle from rotating about the actual axle itself like that. It just gives it stiffness that you don't get with the transverse front spring. And I got these brackets from eBay, cheap and nasty. They're alloy rather than stainless like they advertise them. I'm hoping they'll be strong enough. If not, I'll have them remade. That's not a problem. But at the moment there is an issue which I hadn't spotted, that if I put them where I wanted to put them and you turn the wheel, you'll just hit the top of the bracket with the steering arm. So it means that these are going to have to drop down a bit lower, I think. So I'm just trying to establish what that height will be and mark it out so that I can get them in the right place. And the other thing I have to do is make sure I can leave access to get that bolt head. You know, it's easy enough to think, oh, I'll just put it like that, but then I won't be able to get a spanner in on that nut. Again, I got the option to put them that way round, but again the mechanics are then all wrong, that you're not taking the forces in a straight line into the hub, into the axle end, I mean. So I think that's the way it's going to go, but I'm going to have to drop them down a bit, and it's a matter of how much I drop them, which I just need to establish by a bit of trial and error. I think from what I can see the general consensus is that about 30 degrees of steering on the front. I should be able to get that with that, but I have got to make sure I get that clear. So I'm just going to mark those up and then we can drill the holes, get those tapped out, and at least get those brackets fitted as well then. So that's fixed the bracket where I want it to be fixed. Now there is one problem that I'm not too sure about, and that is that might just with a load on it move that way, and there isn't really enough room to stick another bolt through at the top into the meat there. There isn't enough meat at the bottom to go into there. So what I think I'm going to do is just to stick in a probably an M6 bolt or a screw into that top hole just to stop it swiveling. I think there's plenty of strength in that it's taking a load, pushing in like that, but I just want to stop it swiveling. But that will now take the radius arms, and it avoids the steering arm when it goes that way. So that's another step forward on the development of it. I'll just get on and do this bit now, and we'll be ready to start and move on to the next step, which will be cleaning all this front end up. Right, so I've just drilled the back of the axle ends. I've done one at M8, which is the one that's doing all the work, I hope. That will hold the bracket against the axle end. And then I've done another one at M6 because it just needs something to stop it getting that sort of a movement on it. This is not there to fix, it's there to locate it side to side. And the reason I've gone M6 is that there wasn't a lot of room to put anything any bigger in without having problems. When we get to final assembly, I will be putting shake-proof washers and Loctite and all sorts of things on these, but that's the temporary assembly. It's got to all be painted up afterwards, but that now will sit on the end of the axle, and we'll take the rods the radius arms, and if I'm really fortunate and can find the right bolt, I should miss the track rod end, the steering knuckle bit, which it does. So that's just clearing there, those will be coming down away from it, so that would give me in theory a really quite a tight steering angle, probably far more than I would need, because by that time your wheel would be touching the side of the cart, I think. So the only thing that needs to be, well, there are two things now that I need to do on these. Three things. What did the Romans ever do for us? Three things. First of all, I need to relieve where the bolts go through that way, just to be able to take the head properly. I had a bit of a go, but they need a little bit of Dremel or multi-tooling just to get that, so I've got a flat surface to bolt through from that direction to connect those two together, and the same on the main axle end. And then the only other thing I might do is to drill. I want to fix the metal sleeve inside, because there's a steel sleeve down the middle of this aluminium. I might epoxy that in and then just drill through from the front, dead centre, and put one of those 2BA grease nipples in, although I'm not sure how it will clear, so I want to think about that one before I do it. So I don't want to have something that if you swing the wheel across you'll knock the top off the grease nipple, but I would like to put something in to be able to grease these spindles. And then finally these need cleaning up, and that'll be something for another day. I want to get them to a state where they look like a lump of shiny chrome rather than dull aluminium. And I'll probably paint these brackets because I don't think I'll ever be able to get those up to a suitable finish. But as far as the axle ends are concerned, I'm pretty much happy that that's all I need to do at the moment. So that's the sort of setup we've got now. The radius rods will come away from the back of the front stub axle. One top, one bottom to the side of the cart itself at about 45 degrees. And then the steering rods should miss them altogether. If we get the maths right. Yeah, that works fine. So that's the front end pretty much assembled, ready to be tidied up. I need to get all the right bolts sorted, and I need to cut the spring hangers. They're temporary at the moment, but at least all the work on the spindle ends is done, and I can now move on to tidying those up. And just as a bit of a spoiler, that's the sort of finish they are at the moment. I've already made a start on this one. You can start to see that you can get a reasonably good shine on them, just polishing them up, smoothing them all out. Okay, so now it's time to take one of the lumps of effectively billet aluminium that's pretty rough and see if we can't get it looking a little bit like that as a finish. Right, now this is my bench grinder. Polishing does make an awful lot of mess. You can see from this it throws an awful lot of dust around, so you want it somewhere where it won't matter too much. But all it's got is a shaft that I bought a long while ago, as you can see from the rust on it, which has got a taper on it, and onto that you can put these cotton wheels, polishing wheels. And so really all I need to do is get some jeweler's rouge. You can buy that online, different grades. Just get that on your wheel, and then you can start and polish. And it's surprising that you can get from that sort of finish to something like that in a relatively short time. And it just makes that little bit of difference, that it looks just that bit more professional, I think. And a quick polish up with a little bit of chrome polish afterwards gets them into a stage where they look a little bit better than just the raw aluminium. So they're ready now to start and put back on, and we can get on with assembling the front end. Just going to use the little rotary tool to take out the little bits of weld on the castings so that we can get the nuts and bolts heads in to lie flush. Because there's just a little bit of weld left there at the moment, so just get that out. Well, that's got the front end pretty well resolved, I think. I've sorted out the problems that I'd made for myself. It just shows that even all the thinking and all the planning, you're still going to find problems along the way. Perhaps if I were into 3D design a bit more, you might well be able to understand and see what was happening with things like that then with the brackets, but as it is, I've just had to muddle along, and usually you can overcome these things as a solution somewhere. So I hope the video was of interest. I'll go back and start and put the front end on the cart, and look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart. I'll see you then. Bye.